So, dear students, welcome to the class on analog and digital communication lab. And we have started our theory classes on analog and digital communication. So we have analog and digital communication lab also. And you all know what is the aim of the laboratory. So with the help of laboratory experiments, we try to understand our theoretical concepts in a practical way. And all of us know that presently a very tough situation is going on due to COVID-19 pandemic. So what we have done in analog and digital communication lab, we will try to demonstrate you about the analog and digital communication lab experiments in the form of video, and those videos will have your demonstration related to your lab equipment, lab kits, and lab experiments. And I'm sure with the help of these videos and these online classes related to lab, we will be able to make up with our lab part also. So I advise you people to attend these classes regularly. And let me tell you, though practically if physically we would have conducted these labs, we would have done these labs in the groups. And since this is online delivery, so we can manage all entire class in one class. Okay, so that's why for all the 60 students we have arranged this analog and digital communication lab. Okay, so let me tell you a few things before we move further. So Miss Ankita, research scholar, she will be assisting us in this conduct of ADC lab experiments online. She had also assisted us during previous semester. So I welcome Ankita in this lab class group. Okay, and she has done a lot of hard work for you people to prepare presentations related to lab, and then presenting things in front of you so that you are able to understand the lab experiments. Okay, so now students, that was related to conduct of lab experiments. But before we move to those lab experiments, let me tell you a few things. Since today we are conducting the first class of analog and digital communication lab, all of you have to start making your lab file, or you can say practical file. Okay, so the way we prepare our practical file in the normal days, in the same way we have to prepare practical file here also. Okay, so you'll be writing experiment number 1, experiment number 2, you will be drawing the figures. Okay, obviously you'll not be able to take the readings from the trainer kits, that I understand, but the writing part and the diagram part and whatever your observations are, that observations you will be writing whatever you have learned through the uh, lab classes. Okay, so the same kind of headings you will have in your lab experiment, that is your aim of experiment, then apparatus, then your brief theory, then procedure, and then in the end you have observations, and then you have conclusion. So now, since we are conducting all the labs through online mode, see, observation become very, very important. So you'll not be actually taking observation through, you can say, probe or on the trainer kit, but in the observation part, which will be at the end of your every experiment, you have to basically mention point wise that what you have actually learned from that experiment. Okay, apart from theory. So that thing is very, very important. And in your practical file also, your practical file should be properly named, roll number, class, etc. should be there, your index page should be ready. And today we will be explaining you experiment number 1 and 2. All of you have basically studied, in fact used CRO and function generator aggressively in the previous semester, even physically also when you came in phased manner in the department. So you all know how to use CRO and function generator. Still, your experiment number 1 is nothing but again familiarization with the operation of CRO and function generator. So that experiment number 1 you have to write and prepare. Similarly, your experiment number 2 is related to amplitude modulation and demodulation. Okay, so this experiment number 2 will be, actually we will conduct this experiment number 2 in as 2 experiments. Okay, so in one experiment we will be having this study of amplitude modulation and demodulation with the help of circuit on breadboard, and in one experiment we will be uh, understanding the concept of modulation and demodulation with the help of you can say lab trainer kit. Okay, so that way we will proceed, students. Okay, so I hope all of you have been able to understand, and in the we will have one lab class every week. Okay, in the starting. Okay, and then obviously we'll have to engage some more classes so that all your lab experiments are done in the online way, and all your experiments are well written and documented in the lab file. So immediately today after the class you start preparing your practical files in the same way as we did in our normal days lab experiments. Fine. So I hope all these doubts are clear, and when we will meet in the next class of your ANDC lab, I'll basically see your practical files through your cameras, that whether you have properly prepared file, whether you have prepared index, whether you have written both these experiments 1 and 2. So when we will meet in the next lab class, both these experiments 1 and 2 should be completely covered in your lab file. So I hope all of you have understood. So if there is any doubt, you can ask those doubts later on. Fine. So now we will continue further.
So welcome you all to this ADC lab, and we are starting our experiments. So first of all, I have mentioned a list of the experiments from which we have to perform. You can see that initially first experiments and second is as explained by the sir. First is the familiarization of CR and function generator. Second one is about AM and AM modulation and demodulation, and thereafter frequency modulation and demodulation, and after that some pulse amplitude, pulse width. These all are the experiments list from which we have to take out of 8 or 9 experiments we will take from there, and then we will continue our lab. And next we will start from our experiment 1 to familiarize with the control panel and various measurements using a CRO and a function generator. You who all have seen these two devices in your lab as previous in anti-lab or in analog lab, you all have been familiar with this. So, but this experiment is again put in this here because of the basic need. Why we need CRO and function generator in the communication? In the communication, the main aim is to generate the signals and pass it through the pass it by modulation. And for our lab purpose, we will generate the signals through function generator, and the observation will be done at the CRO. So, what is a CRO? First question arises, so then we can say CRO is an electrical instrument which is used to display, measure, and analyze the waveforms. We all have already displayed the waveforms in sinusoidal waveform, Sartor waveform, pulse waveform, of all this type of waveforms we have observed in the CRO. You can, if you basic points about the CRO, it is based on the electron beams. The CRO makes use of electron beams to draw that signal patterns we have applied through different channels available at the CRO. How many channels are present? 2 channels are present, channel 1 and channel 2. The signal is the signal displayed here is in the time domain form. And after that, you can this is a graphical representation of we can observe to the points the value and the value we have set through the calibration through the various knobs present in the front panel. And we can measure voltage, amplitude, frequency, and the phase of the signals through the use of the CRO. Our main experiment aim is to be familiar with the front panel controls which are present in the CRO. Few basic controls I have written here, mentioned here. As you can see, first is the power button. Power button will be used. This is the power button. Power button is used to turn on or off the mains power, and this one is the extend, and it is used to the zoom or the signal display. You can zoom out 10 times the signal display. And here with this XY button is present. Normally a CRO presents YT waveform. YT waveform means in the white domain, you will see the amplitude of the signal which you have transmitted through the channels. But and in x-axis, it will be the time. The signals varying with the time will be displayed in the CRO in the when it is working in the YT mode. And second mode is the XY mode. When we press this switch, the XY mode will be the XY mode will work, and this mode will allow channel 2 to take the input to be present at the x-axis, and this then the Lysage's patterns will form. The pattern formed between the channel 1 and channel 2 input is called Lysage's pattern. It is used to measure the frequency and the phase of the transmitted signals. It can show the phase difference between the signals present at the channel 1 and the channel 2. Then a switch is present mono or dual. It allows you to decide about the mono operation or single channel operation or the dual channel operation. And then expose is used to control the horizontal position of the signal. You can move the signal in the horizontal manner. And thereafter Y position 1 and 2. Y position 1 is for the movement, vertical movement of the signal in channel 1, and Y position 2 is for the vertical movement in the channel 2. Volts per division is used to decide about the voltage in the calibration, caliber in the form of the voltage. You all have learned this calibration divisions we use to measure the voltage or signal amplitude, which is decided through the volts per division switches. This is for the channel 1 and this is for the channel 2. Time per division. This knob is for the time for deciding the time range, in which range you have to you have to display your signal in milliseconds, in microseconds, or in seconds. You can display your signals, and this VAR is the variation in the time. This red color knob present over the times per division is called VAR, which is used to vary the time in that particular range which you have decided or selected. EXT is the switch which allows you to external triggering. And here external trigger in switch present in the CRO from which you can trigger the external signal. In the YT mode, you have use your horizontal signal for the time, and this signal is inbuilt sawtooth waveform. But if you want to trigger your signal externally, then you can use this knob. Next is channel 1 and channel 2. This is used to decide about the whether you have to display the waveform of channel 1 or the channel 2, or control the waveform of channel 1 or channel 2. Next is plus or minus. The triggering of the sawtooth waveform will be in the either positive manner or in the negative manner. The positive means the signal starting to increase initially, then come down. And negative means the signal is maximum initially and then comes down slowly with the ramp waveform. This is the negative triggering. And Here the two knobs are present to externally control. This is the intensity. Intensity to change the brightness of your signal displaying here, and the focus. Focus will be used to change the sharpness of your signal display, signal waveform. Now, few basic points about the CRO have been covered, and now it's a function generator. As in your experiment, the function generator is a instrument which is used to generate different types of waveforms like sinusoidal, Sawtooth waveform, pulse waveform, or a triangular waveform, which we can generate through the function generator. These waveforms can be of different frequencies in either in kilohertz, megahertz, simply in hertz, and the function generator will have the control panels in the function generator have been displayed here. These are the some common control panels present in every function generator. Waveform selector, you can select a waveform from that which waveform you have to generate, a range of the frequency, amplitude. You can also adjust the amplitude of the signal generated through this knob, frequency. When you have selected the range, then you can change your frequency, offset. If you want to add a DC value to your AC signal, either in positive manner or in negative manner, you can use this switch. And then the output, the knob, the terminal through which we get our output to display on the CRO or to provide to and is an input to the AM transmitter or modulating transmitter. So a few basic points about CRO and function generator I have covered, and the functionality of these two devices and their connections will be explained in this video, which I am playing now.
So here we are discussing two apparatus being used in electronics and communication engineering. The first apparatus is called the function generator, which is used to generate signals. This apparatus is called the CRO, cathode ray oscilloscope, which is an eye of an electronic engineer. It is used for viewing the signal. We can see here, right now you can see this panel. In this panel, what is written? Frequency, that is 1000 Hertz. What kind of signal is this? SIN. SIN means a sinusoid. What is the amplitude? This thing denotes the amplitude of the signal, means 2.00 volt. Now if you want to change this frequency, if you want to change the frequency, and can change using this. No. So it is becoming less, it is becoming more, whatever you like. Right now I set this frequency to 1000 Hertz. Now change it. Next, if I want to change the amplitude, so right, the amplitude is 2 volt. If I want to change the same knob, changing the amplitude, various amplitude, whatever you want. So right now the unit is in volts. If you want to make this unit in millivolts, see, you have to call divide by 10, multiply by 10. So these two, either divide this by 10 and multiply it by 10. If I divide it by 10, now you can see your unit became millivolts. Now let us come back to volts when I press this into 10. When I press this into 10 one more time, you see the point from here move to one more into 10. So right now let to be the same amplitude 2 volt and having the frequency 1000 Hertz. Now what is a function? My function is sinusoid. You can change the function from sinusoidal to various functions like triangular. If you press it again, square. If you press it again, this is again a square. Ramp, it's 2 volt, again 1. Ramp minus 2 volt means a negative ramp. This is pulse, 1 volt, because when we say pulse, it denotes only from reference to upper level or reference to below level. When I press it again, it says a pulse was minus 1 volt, means below. Then a DC voltage, then again back to the sinusoid. So right now we have set it for a frequency of 1000 Hertz, for an amplitude of 2 volts and a function of sinusoidal wave. Now when I connect this from this written as output, you might have seen here written as, I will just open it for your convenience. is written output. Means whatever is generated from this, it will come out from this output. I connect here and we'll go through this wire. So important buttons in this function generator are this frequency, amplitude functions, and to vary this, whether frequency or amplitude, use this knob. Well, to multiply that amplitude or frequency into 10 or divide it by 10, you can use this too. So now this signal what has been generated from the function generator is coming through this CRO cable, which have a two-side PNC connector. One connector I connect to here and the other connector I am connecting to the CRO. Now coming to CRO. CRO is the eye. It has two channels, means it can view two different signals at a time. Right now I have connected only one. So to select this channel, whether I am connecting my output to this channel or this channel, I have to use this button where it is written CH1/2. CH means channel. So when it is upward, it says that I am in channel 1. When I press it, it says that I am in channel 2. But right now I have connected this to channel 1, so I will make it above, means upper part. So this is connected here. Now whatever is being generated, we have to view here. You don't worry about what the signal is being seen here. First of all, use this point called ground, GD. When you make it, it gives you a straight line. Now you have to set this straight line using this Y position movement to this center of the screen. That means here. I have set this in the center of the screen. Now I have to release the ground. Now what is this knob? What is this buttons all? This is the view of the amplitude. In the Y, you can see in the Y direction, the amplitude is changing. So suppose it is convenient for me to view this signal or is this signal, depends on the individual. If I am convenient with this size, I will use this size. If I am convenient with this size, I will use this size. So let us take that I am convenient with this size. I am using that particular magnification. And what about the x-axis? X-axis can be changed using this. What lies in the x-axis? In the x-axis, there is the time. Time of what? Time of how many blocks this one cycle of the signal takes to complete its rotation. So if I using this x pose can move the x direction. So I am setting it in a proper place where I can say, or I can reference point be this, and I can say that this is going to be 1. From here I am saying from here it is going this way, and till here it completes one cycle. So from here I can easily count the number of blocks. As I am using the term number of blocks, you might be confused what is number of blocks. You can see this entire screen is divided into small blocks, various squares. Again you can see that each square is divided into various subdivisions. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subdivisions. 0.2 unit. So it is 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 1. So in total this one block is of 1 unit in the Y direction. Same thing in the X direction, it is divided into 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 1. So its X direction will also have the same divisions. So entire block is 1, small subunit is 0.2. So now we have to calculate the amplitude and the frequency of this signal using this CRO. So I am using, because the amplitude is always in the Y direction, so I can use this XY because I am interested in only Y direction. I am not interested in X direction. So when I press XY, what it does, it has suppressed the X axis because I am only interested in my Y axis. You can see from here that it is properly coming from here to here. Now if I am saying this black line is the dark, which is having subdivision, is your reference line, using this Y pose, you can move this line and you can bring it over here so that you can properly count the number of divisions. Now it is here. So from here if I count, it is complete till here 1. They say till here it is 1. From here it is 1.2, 1.4, 1.6, 1.8. It's almost, it's touching 2 but not 2. So let us take it 1.9. So it is 1.9. I release the XY. So it is 1.9 blocks it is taking for this amplitude. That 1.9 into, you can see here where this knob lies in the 1. This is lies in the 1. So that 1.9 into 1 is how much? 1.9. And what will be the unit? Unit depends on where this range lies. See from this gap, you can see from this gap till this gap, there no other unit is there except some numerical values. There is only one unit called V, means volts. From this gap to this gap, there are various numerical amplifications, but there is one unit called millivolts. So whenever this knob lies in this range, the unit will be millivolt. When this knob lies in this range, the unit will be in volts. So you are getting that 1.9 is the blocks into 1, that is 1.9 is volts. So 1.9 volt. We were generating a volt of amplitude having 2 volt. Now we are getting here a signal having amplitude of 1.9 volts. So what happened to 0.1 volt? The 0.1 volt is what happened when you are transmitting this signal from this wire to this CRO. This wire has some resistance. So you know wherever there is resistance, there will be voltage drop. So due to that reason of resistance of this wire, there is a voltage drop of 0.1 volt in this wire. So that's why we are getting 1.9 volt. But don't have to worry about that. This is a little error in electronic, this particular resistance of the wire. So this is how we calculate the amplitude. Next we move to how to calculate the frequency. Again make it ground, bring it to the center of the line, release the ground, and set this y-axis in such a way that you can easily count your one cycle. So if I set it here, means from this point, this is my one complete cycle till here. So what I am getting, if I can see that from this point I am completing this here, how many blocks it required? It requires 1, almost 2, or let us take it 2. So it is 1 block, 2 block. To complete one cycle it requires 2 blocks. So it is 2 into, where you can see this knob lies, see this, there is a line, this one, this lies in 0.5. So 2 into 0.5 is how much? 2 into 0.5 is 1. So 1, what will be the unit? See, from this gap till this small gap, you can see here, this small gap here and the small gap here, between this the unit will be in millisecond. From this gap to here the unit will be in seconds. From this gap till here the unit will be in microsecond. But right now we are in the range of millisecond. That's why 2 into 0.5 milliseconds. What we got? The time period. And we all know the relation between the frequency and the, so when frequency is equal to 1 by time period, in the range of time period you can write down whatever you got. You got how much? 2 into 0.5 milliseconds. So if I write it down in that way, 1 by 2 into 0.5 milliseconds, that is equal to 1 by 1 milliseconds. So if I want to convert, this is 1 by 1 millisecond, that is equal to again what? 1. If that is equal to 1, and if this millisecond goes up, it becomes from 10 to the power minus 3, it will become 10 to the power 3. So 1 into 10 to the power 3. So we are getting, this is 1 by second, we know is the unit of hertz. So it will become H. So 1 into 10 to the power 3 means 1 kilohertz, or you can say 1000 hertz. What we are giving? 1000 hertz. So from, we are giving from function generator 1000 hertz, and we are getting a signal of frequency 1000 hertz. You can see that we have calculated the amplitude and the frequency using a CRO, and you are familiar with various points, how to use this and how to use this, how to calculate the amplitude and how to calculate the frequency. Thank you for watching this video.
Uh, so now we are moving forward to our experiment number 2, which is about the amplitude modulation and the demodulation. Amplitude modulation and demodulation, you have covered in a theoretical class. Now we will make use of this technique in a practical manner. We have in this experiment we will use breadboard, which we will apply our circuitry. Which circuitry we will use, I will explain here. First of all, here are some key points about the amplitude and the modulation and the demodulation. In the amplitude modulation, as we all know, the characteristic is mainly characteristic is the amplitude, which is varied in accordance with the instantaneous value of the information signal. The characteristic of the carrier signal is varied. The carrier signal is of high frequency, whereas our message signal is of low frequency. That's why we have to, when we have to transmit the low frequency signal, we need some high frequency signals to our to transmit our signal as a carrier. Amplitude modulation is an analog modulation technique because our message signal is also analog, carrier signal is also analog. So this is a kind of the analog modulation scheme. Here the amplitude of the carrier is variable, the frequency and the phase all are kept constant. Whereas in FM, frequency is varied, amplitude is constant and phase is constant. In PM means phase modulation. Here amplitude and frequency remains constant, phase of the signal is varied. And in AM, amplitude of the signal is varied. As amplitude of the signal is varied, this scheme is very prone to the noise. The frequency of the carrier signal is very high as compared to the informational signal. Uh, all you have learned about the benefits of using high frequency carrier. Why we need high frequency signals. And the baseband signal. Baseband signal is a term used for the passive signal or the information signal, and the bandpass signal is the term used for the modulated signal, the signal generated after the modulation. Because we have to transmit a fixed band of the bandwidth to 2 FM. You have already heard many times the frequency, or sorry, the bandwidth of the amplitude modulation scheme is 2 FM. And so we have to pass that band of the frequency through our channel. So baseband signal is converted into band pass signal. This term is mentioned here. Now, for at the next slide, a quick revision of the AM modulation and demodulation scheme is presented here. First of all, I have mentioned shown here generation methods. For these generation methods are mainly for the double sideband full carrier, in which the carrier signal will be present and both the sideband will be present. The frequency spectrum of the double sideband full carrier signal, the frequency spectrum with the double sideband full carrier signal is shown here. Here the carrier signal is present with the high power, and the lower and upper sidebands are also present. In the double sideband suppressed carrier, the carrier signals will be suppressed, and both the sidebands will be present. But in single sideband, one of the sideband, either lower or upper sideband, will be suppressed. And in the vestigial sideband, few part of our lower or upper sideband will be transmitted along with that sideband. Two generation methods are mentioned here for the generation of double sideband full carrier. That means the carrier signal will be present along with the two sidebands. First is the square law modulator, and second one is the switching modulator. Switching modulator is also mentioned as a diode modulator. That's a modulation using the diode. Here, and in the square law modulator, non-linear device, non-linear characteristics will be present here, and the modulating and the carrier signals will be combined as an input to this non-linear device, and the non-linearity property up to the square. You might have learned about AV1 plus A2V2 square plus A2V2 cube. We will keep our signal up to A1, A2, V2 square and discard the rest one. And then the signal will be modulated through this nonlinear device, and the rest of the frequency signal, apart from the frequency required, will be will be rejected through this band pass filter, and the fixed band of the signal will be transmitted at the transmitting side through to our channel. This is the frequency response of the band pass filter, but the frequency response of the band pass filter will be centered at the FC, and FC plus FM and FC minus FM will be its cutoff frequencies. We have to pass a certain band. So the bandwidth of the signal will be 2 FM. All you have learned about this type of the frequency response of the amplitude modulation signal, and this is the just a modified form from the frequency response of the band pass filter. And this is the switching modulator. Switching modulator makes use of diode to transmit our signal. For diode will be open or on or off. That's why this is called a switching diode. It will be on for one case and off for the other case. And after the generation, we will then pass the signal through a band pass filter. The carrier signal will be of a sinusoidal form. Message signal may be any form. Sinusoidal or the sinusoidal can be carrier can be sinusoidal or sinusoidal, but message signals can be any random signal. But for their laboratory purpose, we will take a message signal as a single tone. Single tone means single frequency, sinusoidal or cosinusoidal signal, and then we will combine them, and through a passing, we will pass this signal through a switching diode, which will pass the signal when the signal voltage will be above its biasing voltage, and it will block when it is below or negative in a negative domain. It will then reverse biased, and then this signal will be passed to a band pass filter, and the signal will be generated. Again, this is mentioned here. The band pass filter have the bandwidth 2B or 2 FM. B or FM can be used for the frequency of the modulating signal. The signal frequency or the band pass filter center frequency will be centered at the FC, carrier frequency. And next, when we this is the lecture about, this is the slide about the modulation index, introduction about the modulation index. Modulation index tell us about the depth of the modulation, how much our signal or message signal has penetrated the amplitude of our carrier signal will be learned through this modulation index. The formula for the modulation index is mentioned here. Modulation index in percentage can be denoted as Vmax. Vmax is the maximum voltage after the modulation measured through this in the time domain through the x-axis, and the Vmin is the minimum voltage of this modulated signal measured through x-axis. So the modulation index can be calculated as Vmax minus Vmin divided by Vmax plus Vmin, and if we have to calculate this in percentage, then it will be multiplied by 100 to calculate this in the percentage. Second formula for the modulation index is also Vm by the Vc. Vm is the voltage, maximum voltage of our modulating signal, and Vc is the maximum voltage of our carrier signal. So we can say that modulating signal is the ratio of maximum voltage of our modulating signal to the ratio to maximum voltage of our carrier signal. Now these three cases are shown for your convenience. I have shown them in the output as an output waveforms of the CRO. There are three cases for the modulation index when m is less than 1, m equal to 1, or m greater than 1. M less than 1, that means Vm, modulating voltage, is less than carrier voltage. This is the maximum voltage. Please note, m is less than 1, that means modulating voltage. The modulating signal is shown above, and carrier is not shown here. Carrier is of high frequency, so display of the carrier signal with the modulating signal at the CRO is not possible. For m less than 1, the perfect modulation will occur. This case is called under modulation. The modulating signal amplitude is less than the amplitude of maximum amplitude of the carrier signal. So easily amplitude of the carrier will be varied in accordance with the instantaneous value of the message signal, and the right information will be transmitted. And when m is equal to 1, that means Vm is equal to Vc. Modulating signal maximum amplitude is equals to carrier signal maximum amplitude. Then at the negative side, the signal carrier signal amplitude will be penetrated completely. So you can see this in your diagram. In this diagram, when the modulating signal is of negative value, the signal is penetrated completely, and the maximum voltage will be 2 Vc if it is fixed at this time. And when m is greater than 1, this is the case of overmodulation. The negative voltage will go in below x-axis or in the negative axis, and our signal will not be transmitted properly because this signal cannot be detected accurately. So we have seen the generation of the signals, and now we will see the detection. There are three methods of the detection of the AM signals: through square law demodulator, synchronous detection, and an envelope detection. In the square law demodulation, the signal to noise ratio is very high. Very low. The distorted signal output we get at the from the filter side. And in the synchronous detection, the circuitry is very complex. So the this drawbacks of the square modulation and the complexity of the synchronous detection enables the use of envelope detection for the demodulation in the amplitude AM scheme. In the envelope detection circuitry, a diode will be present along with the low pass filter. Diode will be used to detect the envelope. What is the envelope? This is the information signal. This is the amplitude modulated wave. And the variation in the amplitude is called the envelope of the signal. This envelope detection will be done through the diode. Through this charging and discharging. How will it will be done? That if this is the capacitor present here, the capacitor will charge or discharge according to the value of the envelope, either it is positive or negative. Or variations in the carrier amplitude will decide about the charging and discharging of the capacitor. Here is a condition for the capacitor charging or the discharging, that its time constant should not be greater than the time constant should not be greater than the time period of the modulating signal and should not be less than time period of the carrier signal, which we always have to consider while designing the envelope detector circuitry. So now we all have learned about these AM generations and AM generation and detection scheme. In this experiment, breadboard is used to generate this circuitry. The circuitry shown here. Here a diode is used. That means that the switching modulation is switching generation scheme is used to generate AM modulated signal, and the envelope detection is used here to detect that modulated signal. Here the two signals are present. First one is modulating signal, second one is the carrier signal. These two signals are combined here and then transmitted through the diode, and this LC works as a band pass filter. The values of this LC are mentioned in the experiment, and we can observe the modulated output through this capacitor. And an envelope detector is used to detect the signal in this experiment, where diode, a resistor, and a capacitor is used to implement this. Now I will play the video, and the detailed explanation of this experiment will be here.
Okay, so as I told, we are going to discuss now circuit of the modulation and the demodulation. So for modulation, as I told, I need a source, okay, which can provide the message signal, and one source which can provide the carrier signal. So to control the current through this towards the diode, we need a resistor. Okay, so these two are connected in the parallel. We'll connect a voltage supply for message and for carrier. So as you can see here, we are using one message signal which is having frequency of 7.5, okay, 750 hertz, 7.5 into 100 hertz, okay, 750 hertz is the frequency for message signal. So here you can see this is a power supply, okay, or we can say as a function generator. So we can control the magnitude and we can control the frequency of this, okay, through this button. So with this we can vary and we can control the frequency, and with this we can set the magnitude because it is the amplitude modulation. So we had to fix the frequency both, and we had to vary the magnitude of the message signal and the carrier signal. So for message signal, as I told, I have fixed it to 750 hertz, and for the carrier signal I am using another function generator. For this I have taken 7.94, close to 8 kilohertz, and this is also close to around 800 hertz. Why I am taking is because we know the Nyquist rate, so it should be at least 2 times of FM. So here I have taken FC at least 10 times greater than the FM for better modulation. Okay, so carrier frequency is around 8 kilohertz and message frequency is around 800 hertz. Both ones you will set. So you can see this parallelly it is connected to the circuit here. So in this circuit you can see we are using two resistor R1 and R2. Both are 1 kilo ohm resistor, and one is the message supply and another one is the carrier supply. Both is given to the resistor in, and both are in parallel connected with this diode D1. Okay, so as you can see in the circuit here, R1 and R2 are in parallel, and message signal and carrier signal is given to the diode. And after this we are using one L and C tank circuit. We have to select the L and C value in such a way it should be closer to the carrier frequency. Whatever carrier frequency we are selecting for the our experiment, here we have selected as a 8 kilohertz. So based on that 8 kilohertz, we have selected the value of L and C from this formula, okay, and we got the value of L1 and C1 as a 3 millihenry and 0.1 microfarad. So these two value we have selected it. So here you can see one inductance decade box is there. For this I have selected the 3 millihenry value. You can see 1 millihenry, it is at 3 position, so it's offering 3 millihenry inductance, and a capacitor of 0.1 microfarad is connected here as a starter diode. So this C and L is connected in the parallel, and we are getting the output through this capacitor. Across the capacitor we are connected the probe, and it is fed to the channel 1 in the oscilloscope. So you can see the modulated output waveform here in channel 1. Right now I made it into the stop position to show you the clear picture. So in scale position we can control the horizontal scale. So you can see the wide portion, okay, the modulated waveform. This is the message signal envelope and inside the carrier. So if you read it out here, channel 1 magnitude is 2.8 and frequency as you can see 7.8 kilohertz, okay, close to 8 kilohertz. We have selected as 7.8 to 7.9, which is showing after modulation it is. And then after demodulation we are getting the waveform which is having slight ripples, but frequency you can see is close to the message signal frequency what initially we have given to our circuit. It was 780 around 750, okay, so you can see here 755 hertz, and when we are seeing at the oscilloscope it is close to 727 hertz. So quite nice demodulation we are getting, okay, and the only thing is that we can reduce this ripple by selecting the RC values from here. You can see this formula. For demodulation we should use 1 by 2 pi RC formula, and F we can select as our message signal frequency, and we can select a C value, and then we can calculate the R. We have calculated as a 100 kilo ohm and 0.1 microfarad. So we should select this and tune it in proper way so that we can demodulate the signal. One thing you have to note down in the demodulation circuit, the modulated output should be fed to the signal diode because we are transmitting the high carrier signal. So we use this signal diode here, which is made by germanium material. Around 0.2 to 0.3 volt is the cutoff for this one. So we have to use this, and RC we have to select in such a way so that we can demodulate the circuit, okay, demodulate the modulated signal in proper way and get the demodulated output. And as I told in beginning, for better reconstruction we are selecting the FC greater than or equal to 10 FM. You can choose 20 FM or 30 FM like that. So here we have selected initially FC as 8 kilohertz and FM as a 800 Hz. So you can see clear modulated waveform and the demodulated waveform. Once again I will show you the circuit. So see here, in parallel we have to connect two R's, okay, and we have to fed the message signal and carrier signal. It is connected in series with this diode. Then this diode is connected with the capacitor and the decade box of this inductor of 3 millihenry, okay, and we are getting the output through ground and capacitor or the inductor, any place you can select, because both are in parallel. So you will get the modulated and demodulated output after the diode. You can see, because after diode, as we can see in this circuit, after diode we are having R3 and C2. So in this place we are getting the demodulated output. Thank you. Okay, so as I told, we are going to discuss now circuit of the modulated. Hello friends, as in my previous video I have discussed and explained you the process of amplitude modulation and demodulation using the diode. So today I will discuss individually how carrier signal, message signal and the modulated waveform look like, and further I will explain you the FFT. In that, with the calculation I will show you the frequency spectrum of the carrier signal as well as the modulated signal. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the carrier supply 7.98 kilohertz and the message supply is at 775 hertz. So I would like to show you in the circuit. This is my probe 1 connection, positive supply. So when I will connect it to the message signal supply, you can see on the digital oscilloscope message signal, the frequency is 778 hertz, okay, 777, 778 hertz, here you can see. And when I am keeping it into the carrier signal near this resistance, as I shown in the circuit, you can see the previous video, two resistors are there, one for carrier, one for message. So now I am keeping near the carrier signal, okay, near this resistance. So you can see the carrier waveform. The frequency is close to 7.9 kilohertz, you can see here, okay, and for message signal it was 770 and 780 hertz, close to that. Now if I will keep the modulated signal, so now I am keeping near this diode and the capacitor junction. So if you will connect here the supply, you can see the modulated, amplitude modulated waveform. Okay, this was the output. One is the amplitude modulated, okay, and this is the demodulated output. There are some little variation due to the improper selection of the R and C value filter. Okay, as I shown in the previous video, you can see the circuit diagram there, and then you can properly optimize the value of R and C to get the proper sinusoidal demodulated waveform. Okay, now we are going to show you the frequency spectrum. So as you can see here, the carrier frequency is almost 7.98 kilohertz and the message signal frequency is 783 hertz. So if I will calculate the FC plus FM and FC minus FM, okay, so frequency spectrum look like this. You can see in your theoretical classes, it is something like this. Okay, so FC will be this one, and this will be FC plus FM, and this will be FC minus FM. So these three spectrums I should show you in the FFT window. Okay, so FC is 7.98 kilohertz, FC plus FM is 8.7 kilohertz, and FC minus FM is 7.1 kilohertz. So for this, here we are seeing the modulated and demodulated waveform. Now I am going to change it to the FFT window. So I should press the button FFT. Okay, so now you see here frequency spectrums are there, but it is not visible because of the span of the window. So I will change the span. We have to adjust it properly so that we can see clearly. So now you can see here that maximum magnitude is at FC. This spectrum is FC minus FM, this spectrum is FC plus FM, and the harmonics of this is visible here, means 2 FC. So this is FC. If it is at 7.9 kilohertz, as our signal taken for carrier frequency was 7.9 kilohertz, so it should be exactly 2 times of this FC, okay, close to 15.86 kilohertz. So I should select the cursor button, then in this type frequency, and now you will move the cursor. So clearly you can see when I am moving the cursor, it's I'll keep at the center of this maximum magnitude. Okay, now you can read here 7.9 kilohertz, which is close to 7.98. This is our FC spectrum. Then now FC minus FM, which is 7.1 kilohertz. I will move the cursor lower side. So you can see here the FC minus FM spectrum is exactly at 7.1 kilohertz. Cursor 1 showing 7.1 kilohertz. And the upper spectrum is at 8.7 kilohertz. You can see here the upper spectrum FC plus FM, and this is FC minus FM. Okay, so FC plus FM is exactly at 8.7 kilohertz. Now I'll move the cursor for harmonics. Okay, so this exactly is 2 FC. This is FC, and the harmonics of the FC is 2 FC. So it is at exactly 15.80 kilohertz. At calculated was 15.86. There is some variation which is acceptable. Okay, so clearly we can see the spectrum of the harmonics comes at 15.86. Same way we can see the lower and upper bands. Lower band comes to 15 kilohertz. Calculated value is approximately 15.01. Okay, and then upper one is 16.6, approximately 16.6 kilohertz, coming correctly. So this was the spectrum. Thank you so much. For any further things, you can comment in the lecture window. We'll be grateful to answer these. Thank you so much.
Students, one important thing that you must have seen here, that when we observe our AM wave in time domain, then we CRO is a time domain device. Okay, it displays signal with respect to time. So if you observe amplitude modulated signal in time domain using CRO, okay, then you had got, or you could see the envelope of AM signal. Okay, that was your time domain waveform. And in the second part of this demonstration video, you saw that we used FFT. FFT means fast Fourier transform, and all of you have studied about Fourier transform. So the purpose of the Fourier transform is to convert your time domain signal into frequency domain signal. Fine. So when we use FFT on our time domain signal, then we get the frequency domain representation. Okay, so earlier your part one, the measuring device or display device was CRO, whereas in part two your display device was DSO, means digital storage oscilloscope. So in DSO we have the option of representing our signal in time domain as well as in frequency domain. Okay, so the envelope part that you had seen in DSO, that was your time domain, and by using FFT, you have clearly been able to see your carrier frequency, then upper sideband and lower sideband. One new thing that you must have noticed in this DSO is that you have got harmonics also. So students, we have seen in our theory classes that we have to use filters to remove the other components, other undesirable components. So obviously when we carry out things practically, we cannot say that we will have only 3 components present. Some insignificant amplitude, higher harmonic components will also be present, and those were quite evident when you observed your amplitude modulated signal on the CRO and then later on DSO. Okay, so that's why it is very, very important to observe the signal in time domain as well as in the frequency domain, and both representation give us different information, and it helps us in clarifying our concept. Okay, and moreover, you must have understood the circuit that was made on the breadboard using components, and here you can see that when we hear of amplitude modulation, it seems to us that it seems to be so difficult. Okay, and if you look at the practical circuit, you have seen that there was requirement of just 2 resistances at the input, then you required a diode, and then you required a band pass filter in the form of LC that was required in the amplitude modulation part. Then in the demodulation part, you use diode detector. Okay, so just by using just handful components which you can easily count on your fingers, you could generate AM and you could demodulate AM, and that is the biggest advantage of amplitude modulation. So I'm sure that by looking at these live demonstration of your use of CRO, use of function generator, then amplitude modulation part and amplitude demodulation part, and observing your AM signal both in time domain as well as in frequency domain, you must have been able to clarify your concepts further. So with this, we complete our experiment number 1 and experiment number 2. And as I told you, all of you have to write all these things, your observations in your practical files, and complete these experiments. So